Hi, my name's Colin Harrington. I'm here at the New York Hall of Science, and this is the Maker Faire, which is a amazing toys for adults as well as toys for kids. A lot of science, a lot of geekery, and some amazing technologies. This is a very unique and amazing opportunity for the project that I'm here working on with Lisa Park called Anoia, which is, as you will see, a Cymatic installation using an EEG to compose music in real time and display that music in a ground network of 48 speakers of different sizes, where you will be able to visualize the sound as the waves in water. Even my diagram looks like spaghetti. So when Lisa sent me the diagram of her project, it was quite a challenge to wire up 48 speakers, considering the fact that using a 4-channel amp at 6,000 watts, it's optimal at 4 ohms. It's going to get the most watts when it's at 4 ohms. So I had to wire the speakers in such a way that each channel was only being looked at as 4 ohms, which is very challenging when there's 48 speakers. Struggling with strange prototypes and working with series parallel wiring, and the combination of those was the way that I've been able to get it to 4 ohms on each channel. So one of the unique challenges was these sets of 3, where I had to wire them in series parallel, and then to series, and then to parallel to kind of get them down. So in a group of 3, 2 of them are in series, 1 of which are then wired to something in parallel, if I'm remembering this right. So I'm getting it down to 2 ohms, and then series 2 groups of 3 together to get 4 ohms, and then series 2 groups of 4 ohms to get 8 ohms, and then parallel those back down to 4 ohms. So 24 speakers ending in 1 channel at 4 ohms. We've gone through about almost 200 feet. Yeah, more than 200 feet of speaker wire, which is it's a lot. Originally, Lisa was using these stereo 20-watt amplifiers, 20-watt RMS out of each channel, so probably 40 watts peak per channel, which is probably why these are a little bit more powerful. But with the series parallel wiring, able to, instead of having multiple of the small amps, going with the 4-channel big amp, which is going to be a lot more convenient, especially because there's only 1 power plug in that 1 amp, and it's controlling everything, which is nice. They're 8 ohm speakers. Everything is 8 ohm speaker across the board. Amp does best at 4 ohms. The inner circles of 8 speakers were a little bit easier. So 2 of the larger speakers in series to get 16, and then I had 4 groups of 16, which I paralleled 2 groups into 8, and then together into 4. And these are so difficult. It also doesn't help that this particular 14 gauge is not color coded. I mean, there's no stripe on it, so you have to be really careful when you have long lengths of it that you are keeping track of what side is what. Not that it would really matter if it was only going to 1 speaker, but since it's in a chain, it matters very much. So this is part of the outer ring 6-inch speakers, 3 of them, and there's 8 groups of 3 as you go around the circle. Now to get the proper ohmage, it's 2 of them are in series, and then those are locked in parallel with another one. So in series, when you're going from positive to negative, the color coding on the wires is meaningless, and it's a little bit confusing. So for anyone, for Lisa or any of her helpers that are helping set the stuff up, we're putting color-coded dots. Now, it's not necessarily for positive or negative, but blue goes to blue. That's a no-brainer. And then you can look in these, and I've got gold and silver, and on this one I've got yellow and green. That way, when all of the wires are wrapped in their gaff tape sheath, the line will just come out to here and then stop right in the middle, where all of these little connectors will come out. And in fact, since I've already color-coded these, I can unplug all of this without having a mini heart attack on exactly how it was put together in the first place. So it'll be really, really easy to find exactly what wire goes to what. Did you see that, Lisa? That's the first time I just disconnected everything and put it all back together?
Yeah, I saw it.
So that's how easy it's going to be for you in the future. Like, you don't even have to think about, like, unless those little dots fall off.
Yeah, I agree. I know that, yeah. But we gotta, the point is we gotta put the tape so that when it vibrates, it wouldn't fall down. You can do it. Maybe the other way around. Yeah.
Right here. So 48 speakers in 4 channels, all in 4 ohms. And surprisingly enough, it worked the very first time we turned it on. Underestimated the sprawl of how much this would be on the ground and wanted to move it just after it pretty much all being set up and connected, move it 2 feet to the right, which a table is really easy to move 2 feet to the right, but 48 heavy objects that each have 2 connections on them, so that'd be 96 connections had to be undone and shifted over 2 feet, which caused an issue with the geometry of the octagons that are on the floor. So moving something over 2 feet seems simple, but in this case it's an extra hour and a half. But I don't know, we're getting it done. I have an extra 16. All right. Yeah, that's all right, so even though the entire project was working last night when we were setting it up, right now doors are opening and it's not working. So the middleware in between the NeuroSky and the Max patch is just not communicating. It's not recognizing the headset. Luckily we have the emotive epoch, and I'm going to try real quick. I got to go design some software and hopefully that's going to work with that headset. So hopefully it works. Hopefully I can do it quick enough before it really gets packed in here, because people are already flooding in. So we'll see. I'm adding in new instruments. What I did is I created a note off message every time you change instruments, because they started to accumulate a little bit too much. So if you clench your teeth right now, so you've got the note, but and then when you change instruments, it's going to send a note off to this so they don't keep overlapping. You see?
Oh, yeah.
Do you want them to overlap some more?
Yeah, some more is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
But it depends on the duration, right? I mean, if the duration is longer,
I have it cut off without the duration. So I can actually, it's just to prevent notes from getting stuck on. Or I can just randomly, I can link this to your frustration, and if your frustration goes over a certain level, then it'll send a note off to all the instruments. That would be good, because if you're getting frustrated, then it should shut it down. Shut it down. The more meditative you are, the higher the value is going to get.
Right.
So that's going to change the modulation. The more meditative you are, the more angry you get, it's going to send a note off message. Alright, so good news, it didn't take very long. Luckily, it's a little bit of a different communication between middleware, between the NeuroSky and the emotive headset. So it had to redo the connections, make new connections, and then route all of the new data that's being read by the emotive headset to a wide variety, actually much more wide variety of parameters than the NeuroSky, because there's not a whole lot of conscious thought in the NeuroSky, or even facial expressions. These are all available in the emotive headset.
So right now I'm using this EEG headset called Epoch. and then I'm getting data, and then right now I'm using frustration and meditation, and then mapping those data into different sound waves. It's constantly changing the soundtrack, this different sound. It's being modulated by the meditation.
Got the whole routing up. I've removed all of the automatic stopgap measures that I put in there, and now all of the emotions are controlling pitch. They're controlling the note and the speed of the note that the note changes. I can either lock it into key or have it go into disarray if there's an extra level of frustration present. Notes can be layered. The routing is even easier. While I was working with it, mapped it to just so many different elements of the synthesizer patch. So modulation, echoes, dissonance, the length of the note that's playing, even the envelope, the ADSR is also changing. I'd say there's about 12, 13 different parameters that are now mapped to not only what notes and how the notes are playing, but how the synthesizer is being modulated. And that way, you never quite hear the same thing unless Lisa can perfectly replicate her mental state at two different times, which is very difficult in general for like a yogi, I can imagine. But in an environment like this, it keeps it fresh. You can clearly see there's a projector on the back wall that is showing the EEG data, and it is showing how that is being mapped. So people can actually, they'll look at it, they might be wowed and then a little confused or curious, and then they can look up at the wall and see that the data from the EEG headset that she's wearing is directly controlling the sounds, which are in turn creating the cymatic water sculpture or the water feature. So not only can you hear what's happening inside of her mind via emotions and cognitive thought, but you can clearly see the wave interference patterns in the water, which I'm glad it didn't take very long. I'm glad I was able to map it out real quick. So it's perfect, and she's right now sitting in the center, adjusting her emotional states. I talked to her a couple of times about this, and she'll modify her meditative levels and try to calm down. On the screen, that shows not only can you hear what's happening in her mind, to hear the way she's feeling and hear what she's thinking when there's certain stabs of the synthesizer, but you can clearly see that in the 48 different size speakers that are on 4 different channels, so different groups of them will react differently at different times, where you can isolate different aspects of her emotions or controlling different groups of speakers.
I created this piece for like a meditative reason, and then it's funny because like this is like an environment where there's so many people here, crowded, and then like I'm getting really anxious right now, and then also frustrated. It's hard to really concentrate and meditate, so I'm having the balance right now, trying to find that balance to kind of make sure that I'm in a good state.
So it's working. It's working great, and a crowd has certainly gathered, and people are loving it.
It's an interesting exhibit. She's controlling the music using her brain waves.
Depending on which part of her brain, I guess she's using the different water pools ripple.
The Maker Faire is a very unique environment to display interactive multimedia technology, not only for collaborative works, but just getting to see what other people are designing, what the new, latest, greatest types of technology and art and entertainment that is coming out, being able to network with other people that are in this type of field, and being able to display the project to people who are specifically looking for what's new, what's different, what's beyond what they had previously imagined is possible. And they get to interact with it, they get to see it, they get to experience it.
I think it's very interesting and has done a lot to make this work.
It's a very interesting thing that you can make motion and actions with your brainwaves through speakers, and that you can read what she's thinking on the screen and all. It's very cool.
It's hard to imagine how this is done, where brainwaves are transcended into music. I've never seen anything quite like it. It's one of the joys of coming to Maker Faire, of seeing these imaginative, beautiful people coming up with music and ideas that will take into a next generation of people like these kids and do something amazing.
How do you feel it went today?
Oh, I think it really went great. It's my first time doing my new piece at the Maker Faire in a public venue, and then it's exciting that a lot of people gave me good comments and feedback, and then yeah, I mean this whole Maker Faire environment, like people get excited, they're like open, and then it's a lot of fun, friendly environment. So yeah, it was really great. There was definitely moments I got really nervous and frustrated while I was doing the performance in the middle of the 48 speakers, because like I could hear what people are talking about my piece, and then at the same time I had to like kind of be in a zone where I'm like concentrating, so it's like finding that balance.
I think it's pretty cool that like even if her anxiety and frustration levels are also mapped to parameters of the synthesizer. So even if you can't keep the meditation down, the anxiety factor is going to make the sound morph and change in various different ways, give you a more intense experience, or you know, at least a visual display in the audio. And for me, it was also a lot of fun talking to people that were like thoroughly interested in it, because I'm incredibly interested in it, she's incredibly interested in it, so other people that are just responsive to that, and they love it, you know, almost as much, if not more, because it's brand new to them when they're seeing it. So it's a great experience.